Let's begin with a drum set. Listen for an explosive live sound. The snare should be crisp and the cymbals should ring.
I admire you when my living has a limit of desire to keep it going. I'm just knowing that my time with you makes a difference. How I'm feeling when I vibe with you. They can't divide us two. We got a bond like 007, right? Even on Devil's Night, you show me what the heavens like. Go ahead and spread your light, though I can barely see. I know you're there with me, my personal therapy. Some days I wish I was more like you. Your certainty, your attitude. Keep doing what you're doing, I ain't mad at you. I'm just wishing that I had that too. Some days I wish I was more like you. Your certainty, your attitude. Keep doing what you're doing, I ain't mad at you. Just to know you, I'm glad I do. I want you to view yourself the way you see me. When you're feeling alone, I'll be a sanctuary, yeah. I want you to view yourself the way you see me. When you're feeling alone, I'll be a sanctuary. You inspire me, look at you crazy when you tell me you admire me. Not an example for anybody to try to be. We'll call you bluff, but I know you wouldn't lie to me. Just a surprise to me, we got a bond tight, no one can come between. I have respect for you, you have your love for me, and that's enough for me. All I need to get by, let me be the method to your Mary J. Blige. So many times I felt defeated, you always know the right thing to say for when I need it. I wanna do the same thing for you to keep it even. You can call me anytime, you don't ever need a reason. I'm right here with you, never could forget you. All the things that we've been through, everything we went through, hey, none of it was simple, but I'm right here with you. Some days I wish I was more like you. Your certainty, your attitude. Keep doing what you're doing, I ain't mad at you. I'm just wishing that I had that too. Some days I wish I was more like you. Your certainty, your attitude. Keep doing what you're doing, I ain't mad at you. Just to know you, I'm glad I do. I want you to view yourself the way you see me. When you're feeling alone, I'll be a sanctuary, yeah. I want you to view yourself the way you see me. When you're feeling alone, I'll be a sanctuary.
Rise and shine. Pour yourself a cup of coffee and tune in to Good Morning Aurora. News, weather, and really cool interviews. Monday through Friday from 8 to 9 a.m.
Make lists. My lists have lists.
Make lists, make lists, make lists. Good morning, Aurora. Good morning, Aurora. Good morning, Aurora. The time is 8 o'clock, 7:59. Yeah, early. See that? If you're early, you're on time. If you're on time, you're late. It is Wednesday. You're listening to and watching Good Morning Aurora, the second largest city's first daily news podcast. It's a beautiful morning outside. I was out there for a little bit. Slight chill in the air, but not an overwhelming chill. Good hoodie weather. You got a hoodie. Really nice outside. The flowers are going away, as me and my friend Fermina were talking about. You're around downtown Aurora. The City of Aurora staff and crew are bringing in all the flowers. They're taking them off the city light posts and everything and putting them away. And as I was thinking about it, I thought about the potting parties that happen in the springtime. When it starts getting warmer outside, Marissa from downtown Aurora will send an email, hey, if you want to be part of the pot them in those big things and get them ready. And I thought, wow, that takes a lot to do that. And you don't realize it until they're taking them down and they're going away, because now it's not going to be beautiful petals and tulips and what's another flower?
Geraniums.
Geraniums. Ooh, good one.
Impatiens.
Good one. It's going to be snow and brown leaves. I know. Curtis, man, we're supposed to start off with something nice to talk about. I know. But we have our friends of NAMI KDK back again. We're going to talk about outreach in the Black community, ending stigmas, and also the events that you ladies have coming up, one of which is the 5K this weekend. But for the listeners at home and our viewers, introduce yourselves and let us know who you are and what you do.
My name is Kimberly Mabane. I am the program coordinator at NAMI KDK.
Okay.
I'm really enjoying the work that I'm doing here.
Good to see you.
And I'm Fermina Ponce. I work with NAMI DuPage, and I'm excited to be back and talking about these wonderful things about what we're doing in the community and how we can help to end the stigma.
All right. So NAMI KDK stands for Kane, DuPage, and Kendall, right?
Kane, DeKalb, and Kendall.
Kane, DeKalb, and Kendall. Okay. For those who are unfamiliar with the organization, can you guys briefly detail its history and what it has been doing? Because it's been around for a bit, if you guys know a little bit about the origins.
You want to start? The National Alliance on Mental Illness is the largest grassroots organization in America. We focus on education, we focus on advocacy. We also offer support groups, and we try to have other social events and stuff so that people aren't just feeling like they're getting something akin to being clinical, that they're also being able to just interact with each other.
A soft touch, kind of.
Exactly.
Human. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Because I think that's been a problem in the past, right?
I mean, especially with the pandemic,
Right.
People were so isolated. So getting people back to a point where they're able to have human interaction, it's really important, right? It's important for our mental health. We need to have relationships and interact with other people.
I agree. I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, and a lot of people ask us what NAMI stands for, and it's the National Alliance for Mental Health. So that's what NAMI stands for.
Okay. So tell us about the 5K that's coming up, and that's going to be Saturday.
Saturday. Our 5K is in Oswego,
Okay.
at Prairie Point Park. The race starts at 9. We're asking runners to show up maybe 8 o'clock, 7:30, if they need to pick up their shirts. We are also going to have resource tables at the event. AID is going to be there. Mutual Ground is going to be there.
We're gonna have a table for crafts and art for the children.
We're gonna have a
There's
raffle.
gonna be a raffle.
Okay.
So it's gonna be a lot of fun, an experience for the entire family.
Okay. So you can raffle. You can get your run on. You can get the exercise and the mental health.
Mhm.
All right.
There's
okay.
a DJ. There's going to be a food truck.
Okay. So our conversation today will be ending the stigma of mental illness within the African American community. In a nutshell, what does it look like, and what are the challenges that we're trying to overcome in the African American community about mental health?
There's been a lot of pressure on people of color. where we have this feeling that we have to be perfect. We can't let anybody see us trip or fall. And a lot of people feel like acknowledging that there's something going on with your mental health is a sign of weakness, when it's the greatest sign of strength to ask someone for help. It's one of the hardest things you can ever do, right?
Why is that?
Which part?
Why would the part about not wanting to show that weakness, I guess not why is that, but why is it so pronounced? Why is it so strong? We were talking off mic before the mic came on about some of, what you're told and why you're told that. But why do we think that is? What's causing that?
It's the pressure of being other in America. It's the pressure of always feeling like anything that you do is going to be seen as a representation of your entire group instead of just being something that has to do with the individual. And I think it's really important that we acknowledge that every single one of us has mental health. It's just as important as our physical health, and we need to take care of it just as much as we need to take care of our physical health.
Interesting enough, as I was listening to both of you speaking, the Latino community has exactly the same pressure around it when we arrive to the United States or to America. And to ask the question why is because a lot of the cultural components drive us to be more, you keep this quiet, you don't talk about it. If you have a condition, we keep it behind doors.
Right.
That's not something that we talk about it, precisely because what Kim was saying, the pressure and the necessity to be perfect or to represent the community the best way possible.
Right. Now I have an opinion and a question about that. I didn't mean to cut you off. You were about to say something.
I was just gonna say that additionally, if you throw religion into the mix, there can end up being a lot of pressure where it's not mental illness, it's the devil. So you just need to pray it away.
Right.
You can have both prayer and a therapist. Like there's nothing wrong with having both of those things.
Right. I'm glad you brought that up, because that kind of was going to tie into the original where I was gonna go after Fermina. I think that one of the reasons why it is such a heavy blanket to lift off is because the people who are telling us this are our grandmothers and grandfathers. They're our mom's mom or your dad's mom. So just using my life as a small example. So my dad being a young guy who came from Georgia here, the people that he came, he was on the train when he was 6.
Right.
The people who picked him up from the train station were the older women in the family. So if that's the first book you're reading, it's kind of hard to think of something different. And I don't know if that's helping or hurt. Well, I'll say I don't know if it's helping or hurting, because I wouldn't want other people who think religion should be a primary factor to think it's not. But in your opinion, is that what you're dealing with when you meet people and they are trying to come out of their shell, or they are is that what their answers are for why they have mental health? Or, what do you hear from people?
I hear that,
Okay.
that there's a religious component. There's also this pressure where having mental illness in your family somehow is
Makes your
going to
family
make
look
your
crazy.
family less.
Right.
Make people look at your whole family as this one individual is representative of the whole. And so a lot of times the family will be like, oh no, we're not going to talk about this because we can't let anybody know that this thing exists, because how will they look at us
Right.
if they know?
Right. I think, go ahead, I'm sorry.
I'll talk from my personal experience being diagnosed with a mental condition. I remember when I was talking to my family about my diagnosis and what kind of support I would need. And they were saying, you need to think positive.
Right.
Maybe if you think more positive, this will go away.
Yeah.
One of the worst things you can say.
That's one of the worst things that you can say. The other thing is maybe you just need more attention, or you are attention deficit and you're looking for more attention. So all these kind of taboo and a stigma around it, it makes it harder for the person. Not only because you're trying to understand yourself, what's going on, but also you have all these saying and beliefs in your family that make it really a struggle.
Yeah, when I was early memories and thoughts where I can recollect conversation, when I was like 10, I remember even earlier, but I remember my dad telling me, like, and my parents and everybody telling me that, you have to be the most upright representation of our race. You must be.
You can't conform to stereotypes.
You cannot. You must not. Up to and including, like, everybody's parents, right? Physical threats, like, I'll smack you if you whatever. So the pressure to be the most upstanding, shining example of one's nationality, with a healthy sprinkling of, if you're not that, you're going to hell. Right? Reinforced with the thought that you have to be that way because we're the other and we are looked down upon, so you must be the shining. All of that makes you have pressures that if you're young, you're not going to be able to answer. Because once you start going through school and meeting people from other nationalities and cultures and having those encounters in life where you start growing up, once that starts happening, you're not going to be able to maintain that pristine, beautiful image in the, if you get into a fight when you're a kid or whatever the case may be. And I think that what starts to happen is when kids are 12, 13, maybe 14, and once they start having those interactions that don't go good, then they start having that early feeling that I've failed already. And failing your parents could mean a lot more than failing in school.
Yeah.
So I just I wonder that when we have this conversation too, because I think nowadays, I have a question about social media which we'll ask later, but I think nowadays there's a lot more resources for young people if they start to feel like that. I think that they're just not finding it, or I think it's not that it's not taboo to ask anymore. It's not cool, right? Taboo got replaced by cool. I don't say that in a funny, laughing way, but I think that you understand what I'm saying? Like, now it's just not cool to ask for help.
I think I want to say that the culture is starting to make that shift.
Okay.
Just the American culture in general, just because of how stark the pandemic made the problems that exist as far as like people's access to mental health care, the skills that we're actually teaching our children in school, right? And the pressure to be perfect when perfect doesn't exist,
right?
Because we're all human. It's harmful to you.
Right.
It adds stress, and a lot of stress can bring on symptoms of mental illness.
Right. Go ahead.
When you were talking, I was thinking when you were talking about it's not cool to ask for help at the schools and things like that. There are so many resources that the schools offer for the children and for the kids, the counselors, the social workers, institutions like ours that goes to the schools and educate the children, no matter if they're in middle school or high school, about how to ask for help and how to ask is actually cool.
Right.
So shifting
and
that,
how to recognize
and how
if
to
you have a
recognize
friend
it.
who's struggling.
Exactly.
I think here's something else that's very strong and helpful nowadays, and I think I mentioned this in our discussion that we had with yourself on Buenos Dias, Aurora, is that, you know, now the people who are out here doing the work are cooler. Now they look like you. Now it's different, you know? I'm old enough to remember, if you were not at the office downtown Michigan Avenue, right, between 8 to 5, that was it. Services were refined to an office with a person who probably wasn't from your community, who didn't care. Look, sit in. We'll call your number when your number comes up.
There is something to be said for being able to interact with people who can truly, deeply understand your lived experience.
I met Alejandra
walking day to day.
Yeah, I met Alejandra at VNA Healthcare, working the same event. Yep. So it's it's you're finding it now in the community, and I think that's a good thing. See, I think that, and I don't do your job, so I'm on the outside looking in when it comes to the industry. But as a person who dealt with a lot of counselors when I was young and people like that, it's night and day. It's night and day. Now I'm able to work with the same people, and I see, like, look, these young people got it. It's at their fingertips now, right? Now it's on Instagram. Yeah. There was no. You're closer to people who are cooler and can help you because they went through it now. Now the culture has shifted. It's like now we just have to make it. First it was taboo. I think we've done with taboo now. You know, the older generation, we see the flaws in some of that teaching. Now we just got to make it cool for the young kids, right? So they don't think like, I shouldn't go. Yeah, you should. You should. Because mental health pressures are different now, especially with young people, student debt. Relationship trauma. We've had interesting discussions with our friend Norman Peterson from Document the Abuse, and substance abuse, because there's a lot more drugs and things of that nature that weren't as prevalent once upon a time. I didn't mean to cut you off for a minute.
No, I was listening, and it came up to my mind our mission, what we stand for, and our mission is to provide mental health education, support, and advocacy for individuals, family members, and communities. But most of all, for our growing up and our growing children, you know, the youth, because that's where the future is, and that's where we need to be working with. So this is an open invitation for the schools in the Aurora area to open up, to work with organizations like NAMI to come and educate and work with them to provide more awareness and more support to the students.
Absolutely. I see, you know, in my life too, it's just, and as a young, but here's the thing, as a young black man who now is a lot of young people with volunteers and everything that I do, and just different. I did volunteer teaching once upon a time. I've been in AmeriCorps, the Junior Achievement Program, and being a parent. I'll tell you this: in every decision I make, I consciously concede, like, you know what? I know what I probably would have been told. I'm going to do opposite of that. I am going to do the opposite of what my instinct tells me right now, because my instinct is going back to I can hear my dad's voice or my mom's, right? I'm gonna do opposite of that right now.
You just pulled that out of my head just now. Like, we are actively trying to fix the things that we realize that, like, our parents' generation did wrong. And not that is a condemnation of them, right? You can't do something that you haven't learned how to do. But when you know better, you should do better.
What's the impact of religion on the African American community and mental health?
There is, I feel like it's getting better, but there still is a strong contingent that feels like you should just be able to pray it away, and they don't understand that it's an actual physical thing that has effects on your body and has effects on your brain chemistry. And prayer alone is not, for someone who's seriously mentally ill, that can literally kill them.
Right.
By saying just pray it away and not doing anything else to address the problem.
Does the Black community have? Let me start over. Are there sectors of the African American community that look at themselves or others within the African American community as they've fallen? What I mean to say is that aren't African Americans sometimes part of the issue because of the religious
that it's
fervor?
A sign that you aren't religious enough, that you aren't faithful enough to God.
Aren't we in times cannibalizing ourselves in the community? The way that we look at people of the LGBTQ community within our own nationality, the way that we look at a young man with Down syndrome in our own community. You see what I'm saying? Isn't that as problematic as the outside pressure or the outside?
I think it's a result of the outside pressure.
Okay.
Right? So that pressure that we feel is what causes us to behave in the ways that we behave, right? If we don't do anything about the pressure, those behaviors just continue. We need to actively work to teach young people the skills that we weren't necessarily taught, like how to communicate in a healthy way, how to have a constructive conversation. Like, do you want to be right or do you want a solution? Because you're coming from two entirely different places,
right,
in a conflict situation with another person.
Right.
Do you want to maintain this relationship, or would you be okay if you never saw this person again?
Right.
Those are the questions that you have to ask yourself, because if it's a relationship that you want to keep and you want to nurture, you can't just go off every single time that you get mad at somebody. You have to learn some new skills, some new ways of dealing with that conflict.
Everybody, the time is 8:22 a.m. Everybody, so just for clarity, every community, and people within every community are going to suffer from mental health.
Yes.
What, in your opinion, is unique about the African American experience? I mean, I wouldn't want to ask it too plain, but is there anything that's, I guess unique is the best word I can think of right now, unique or special about the African American experience that may not be relatable to other nationalities?
The systemic nature of the lived experience and the negative parts of the lived experience of being a Black person in America. Like, generational trauma is a very real thing. You can pass the trauma that you've experienced on to your children. And so now they're starting from a place where their risk is automatically already higher. It's important to address the violence that has been perpetrated against Black people, watching it on TV. Now, social media is littered with videos of people being shot dead by police. Watching those videos over and over again, that's also a trauma, right? I personally don't watch the videos, I can't. But those experiences compound on one another, and they add to the stress, and they add to the pain that you feel on a day-to-day basis. And that pain, you were talking about substance abuse earlier. Substance abuse is usually the symptom and not necessarily the problem. Someone trying to mask their pain, trying to make themselves feel better, trying to not think about the thing that they don't want to think about. But you can't just pack things on top of negative experiences and expect that it's just going to resolve itself, right? We have to do that work to unpack the trauma that we've experienced so that we aren't passing it on to other people. so we aren't lashing out at other people because of our trauma.
And part of the work is definitely seeking that help.
Yes.
And knowing what that looks like and doing that in a better fashion in a new generation.
Exactly.
Yeah, because I mean, I can hear it now. You know, the idea of going to some counselor. You're not going to counselor unless you're court mandated. You know,
right?
Like that's the, you know, and it's so, you know, on the one hand, and I'll this will be the yellow card on the field, right? On the one hand, I cut a lot of slack for the grandparents. I cut the slack of having the experience and dealing with it, but not reiterating the sad parts of the story and jading people. You know, it's, and I use my dad's example. I was on the train when I was a kid by myself a lot, but you know, my dad came from another state alone on a train at 6 years old. Now the world was a different place back then.
Right.
You know, so that was, but you know, I'll never know what it was like to be a kid and sent on a train from Georgia to Illinois and then landing on the west side of Chicago and then going into the home so the family life and structure, I think, is worth preserving.
Right.
I think that's a memory, and that's an idea, an experience that should be remembered and treasured, because that's not happening anymore.
Right.
You know, even that area of Chicago, right? That's worth remembering. The good parts of the family experience. What is identifiable that's negative now is having your kids or whoever having to deal with it just because you dealt with it.
Right.
And not noticing the change that can happen in 30 years. You know what I'm saying? I mean, right? You know, you can't keep telling people your 30-year story when they're born. That's just not going to advance. We need to make
new stories.
We need to make new stories, right? Take the good and share the experience, but not jade people for the upcoming generation or whatever it may be.
Share the lessons.
That
right.
There
are to be learned from those experiences.
Right.
Like you said, you were speaking about not faulting the grandparents. They did what they did raising their children because they believed that's what they had to do so that their children would survive to adulthood.
Exactly. I remember there's a lady. Actually, I won't name her, but she asked me. She's a well-known lady in the African American community here, an older lady. She's done a lot. She said, out of nowhere, what are you gonna tell your kids about? What are you gonna tell your son about race? And I wasn't ready for her to ask me that because we were having like a potluck, right? And I was like, you know, I just got a scoop of the macaroni salad. I was like, I really wasn't.
I was not prepared. What is this?
There's balloons and cupcakes and all that. Like, where's this going? But as much as it shocked me, what I did know was that I'm not gonna tell him what I was told. That's not gonna help anybody, you know, because again, with the benefit of hindsight, my parents were telling me the world I was a child during the Rodney King incident.
Me too.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I was a child. I mean, I got the Amadou Diallo incident and all that. I was a child. So, it would be wrong. It would be wrong of me to tell my son what my parents told me. I think that'd be wrong. I do. I think it'd be wrong. I try to show a responsible and safe look at the world from a young black man's perspective. I'm trying to do it gradually. You know, I'm trying to do it gradually. But anyway, the time is 8:29. This is a great conversation. You know, we've only broke the conversation once. Holy cow. All right. I did have news that I wanted to mention, you guys. Monica, could you please take a brother Take your brother to a commercial. Okay, good morning, all of you great people. Norma Peterson, if it can't be an example, let me be a lesson. I like that.
Mm-hmm.
I like that.
I like that a lot.
I like that. If I
I'm gonna
can't
write
be an
that down.
example, let me be. I like that.
Write that down.
I like that. Thank you for that, Norma. Norma said the Latin culture doesn't make it easy to seek help. We are taught that you don't tell people your problems, just figure it out. That's a fact. That's what they tell you in the military too, though.
But community is absolutely what you need to be able to work through those things.
Right.
Human relationships and
See,
connections are important.
See, that's enough. See, and that's the other aspect of it. I mean, I'll get to the news I was talking about, but see, that's because listen, I'm just gonna. But some of us leave the worst place we ever. Some of us dream. We got big dreams and goals, right? But what we're looking at, Harvey, Illinois, or maybe for you, it could be anywhere. But what you're looking at is not what's right. It's not matching up. I'm looking at National Geographic, right? Polar bears, the Incas of Peru, Antarctica. But what I'm looking at is broken glass. So how are you gonna make, and some of us, you go straight from that to the military, and that's a whole nother thing, right? Now you really gotta work it out,
Yeah.
Because if not seeking help was ever encouraged in your family,
It's definitely not there.
It may not be it may not be reiterated on a boat. Anyway, here's what I have to tell you guys about. Oh, and Saul Olivas. Good to see you, sir. Good morning. Josie Mendoza Geller, we need to erase the stigma of mental health, and illness is an illness. That's a fact, too. And William Miller III, good morning, halfway through the work week. Okay. So, let me tell you, wonderful people, about Bull, a Love Story. Actually, I'm going to start with Coffee and Conchitas, an open house. This will be October 13th from 5 to 7 p.m. at the Waterford Place Cancer Resource Center, 1310 Waterford Drive here in Aurora. You're invited to an open house at Waterford Place Cancer Resource Center to learn about Spanish language programs. Waterford Place provides services and support at no cost to anyone affected by a cancer diagnosis. There you will find access to an array of services including education, mind, body, and spirit, wellness, salon and spa therapies, and support services. Community partners include NAMI KDK, Loaves and Fishes, the Aurora Financial Empowerment Center, and Family Counseling Services. It's good news for you. Okay, also get ready for this is something that's really, this is what makes me happy. Bull, a Love Story. It's not Bull, a Love Story that makes me happy. It's the story of it and something like this for everyone to enjoy coming here to the second largest city. So get ready for a world premiere play developed through Paramount's Inception project. Bull, a Love Story is part of the 5th Destinos Chicago International Latino Theater Festival, an annual citywide event produced by the Chicago Latino Theater Alliance, showcasing top Latino theater artists and companies from Chicago, the U.S., and Latin America. This will be taking place going until, started last month, it's going until the 16th. What's new about it for us locally is Bull, a Love Story. Paramount Theater is proud to be the first suburban theater to be included in Destinos. Yes, I know. You know what? Isn't that great?
It's lovely.
Aren't y'all proud about that?
Absolutely.
Whew. Okay, here's a story. Bull dealt drugs, got caught, and served his time. For a decade, he's thought about one thing: coming home. On the day Bull is released from prison, he returns to his old Chicago neighborhood, Lakeview, now unrecognizable. Hopeful and eager, he is ready to resume his life with his family, only to discover how much has moved on without him. His dream now within a grasp, what will it take to get home? Suggested for ages 13 and up, some adult language. Shout out to our friends of the Paramount Theater, including Jay and Joel and all of you great people. Megan, good morning to you. Okay, and last but not least, Aurora Methodists are having Wednesday night gatherings with free community dinner and activities. Tonight, the public is invited for Wednesday night gathering, a series of community dinners, and tonight is, there it is, Michelle Curiel, family director at Aurora Wesley United Methodist Church, is leading children painting pumpkins tonight. How about that?
Aw.
Admission and parking are free, and tacos and bonfire is at 6 p.m.
Can't go wrong with tacos.
Oh, Lord. Hey, we talked about that last week on the show. That'd be a time for worship, right? Tacos. I want to say amen. Right now, congregation say hallelujah. Hallelujah.
Won't he do it?
Okay. The time is now. What time is now? Time is now 8:34 a.m. Okay. So let's get into the calendar of events that you guys got coming up, and then we'll come back to the question I got about social media. You guys got events because there's the flyer that we were sent.
Yes, this is about the different programs that we have set up for Aurora.
Okay.
So tonight we have a presentation in Spanish called Compartiendo Esperanza.
Okay.
And this is for community leaders, in which we talk about how important to be an example, to share lessons learned is fundamental for healing and in regards to mental health. So that will take place at the library, a Santori library, from 6 to 7:30. So all these programs that I'm going to read are going to take place at the library, at the Aurora library. October 19th, we're going to have another Compartiendo Esperanza, but for families. So it's called The Table or La Mesa,
Okay.
in which a family shares and talks about their issues or their concerns, and then is guided through love and support and understanding. So that's a beautiful presentation.
All right.
Then we have on October 25th, Conversemos. That's going to be in Spanish as well. And that is a program about writing, expressive writing, and how writing can help you heal. Because many times there's a lot of within that you are not able to verbalize, but if you do it through writing, then it's more therapeutical, and it can ease your pressure or your burden.
Right.
On November 15th and 22nd, we have Sharing Hope for the Black community. So that's fantastic. And then that's going to be towards families. So it's open towards families, and it's going to take place from 6 to 7:30 at the library.
Right.
It's going to be fantastic, talking about how roots and how culture and how your memories can be part of the healing as well.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And of course, don't forget the race, the 5K that we have on Saturday. So Kim, you want to remind us again about the race?
One more time, the 5K is going to be in Oswego at Prairie Point Park. Race starts at 9. We're going to have resource tables. There's going to be a raffle. There's going to be a DJ. There's going to be a food truck. It's going to be a really great time. So come on out and join us. We are also very happy to partner with Conventions, Psychiatry and Counseling in Warrenville, so that we can offer a new group for Black, Indigenous, and people of color. It's going to be every fourth Wednesday at Conventions, but it's also going to be a hybrid model. So we're going to have people also Zooming in to make sure that everybody can get access. We've also got a new LGBTQ group that's going to be happening at Simply Destiny. I believe it's every fourth Thursday. Let's see what else. Our support, as far as our support groups are concerned, the first Saturday family support group went back to in person. That happens at the Santori Public Library. The last Saturday, Connections group, which is our Connections Recovery support group. It's for individuals who are living with symptoms or a diagnosis of mental illness. We have a support group every last Saturday. That one has also gone back to in-person. And that one takes place at the Oswego Public Library, their Montgomery branch. And both of the Saturdays are from 10 a.m. to 11:30 a.m.
Quick question. Time's 8:39. Got a few I got to get in here. Social media. What role is social media playing, in your opinion, in the discussion of mental health?
Wow. Well, studies are now starting to show the negative effect of social media on our mental health.
Okay.
As we're scrolling through our timelines and we're seeing all these pictures of, usually people are going to post up their best moments, right? The happy ones. You're not going to see all of the in between. You're not going to see all of the photos they rejected before they chose that one, right? But seeing this parade of people whose lives end up looking like they're perfect can make you feel like you aren't doing enough, or get you really comparing yourself to other people. And we can't do that. Each one of us is on our own unique journey. None of us will take the exact same steps from point A to Z. And we need to be able to respect the fact that we don't know another person's story, and we should never judge their pain as less than our own. We need to show each other compassion.
Yeah, one thing that I always keep in my mind in regards to social media, based on what you were saying, Kim, that everything looks perfect. I always said it's not like it's fake news, but social media is only for understanding or perceiving targeted communication. So they just want to communicate what is positive, what
Right.
looks like a way,
Mm-hmm.
but it's not the way.
Right.
It's just not necessarily what you want to portray. But,
Absolutely.
But yeah, you need to take it with
A grain of salt.
with a grain of salt,
Yeah.
and say, okay, I shouldn't let that pressure me. It's just what they want to show.
It's like it's like the McDonald's model, right? That Big Mac, when you get it, is not gonna look like that. With the perfect bread that's all
Nope.
plump and the tomato is juicy.
Not
with
ever.
It's never.
It's like this skinny little tomato that looks like it's been sitting there
You're
all
about to get
day.
an empanada. It's not gonna look like that.
No.
But yet you're gonna get it. So being able to discern between what's real and what's
Exactly.
not, and how it's gonna benefit you is difficult. And I see a big help for social media, but I do see it as that trap for people. I think it was this January of this year, I think was when Facebook got into the big lawsuit over Instagram, if you recall, because there was a specific study showing that I think it was girls from 12 to 17 were having the most negative effects and reactions with social media. And they were asking them, like, they were like, oh, it makes me feel, I feel like I'm not worthy. I feel terrible.
I feel inadequate.
Yeah, my self-esteem has dropped. And boy, that's sad. Because I think it makes the work that you ladies are doing that much harder. That much harder. For something to be that popular but be that negative for people, pulling them off of it is
the unrealistic expectations that it ends up putting forth. Like, especially when it comes to celebrities, for example, like you'll see them posting their pictures in, their bikinis, and they're on the beach and they're having a great time, but like, you don't see the fitness person that they have hired. You don't see the nutritionist that they have hired. You don't see the makeup artist that they like. It's put together so that you see them the way that they want to see you, but that's not necessarily them.
Right. Exactly. Yep. There's a meme I saw. It says something like your friends won't even support your business, but they'll send Tom Cruise a good happy birthday. And there's a detachment. Like, people need to detach. Like, you have to, you gotta let it go.
Yeah, advertising has come around a little bit about that, because they used to be only portraying the perfect figure, the perfect looking girl, without including the real shape.
Right.
Not
Real
everybody
bodies.
is exactly.
Yeah.
So
exactly.
now advertising is more inclusive.
Yeah.
You know, I'm a little overweight, and when I see magazines that have overweight people or a little, you know, out of shape,
Yeah.
I feel like, oh, she looks like me.
It's realistic.
It's realistic.
Realistic.
I
It's
can
not
go
right.
to the store and find clothes for me.
Right.
Versus,
I tell you, as a man, I respect. You know, you got the aisle Meyer or wherever you shop at, and you got the magazines right there. As a man, I respect that. You know, when because it was Sports Illustrated. That's right, but this is a few years ago now. Anyway, Sports Illustrated had the model identified as plus size, whatever it was, on the cover. Hey, that's cool. That's not affecting the price of your bread. You know, that's a great thing. But you saw people, I'm canceling my subscription.
Okay,
See,
cancel them.
cancel your right. Like we really care.
They're not worried about you.
I'm happy when I see that, and just like we were talking the other day, I think also in our conversation, I'm happy when I see churches, right? When I see churches, houses of religious worship, having things open for different people in their community. Oh, we're having a Asian Pacific Islander night. I like that. I think that kind of stuff helps to fight the battle against mental illness and stigma as well. Because going back to religion, I tell you this, you know, I went to Catholic school when I was young. By the time I was 10 years old, I knew who was going to hell. You know, I knew every racial group. I knew that. Oh, I knew. And I carried that thinking with me pretty much up until I joined the Navy. You know,
That Catholic guilt can be real strong.
well, the guilt of and you know, it wasn't necessarily a, you know, I won't call it a guilt. I guess I would call it an indoctrination would be the wrong kind of word to use. I don't know what
Why?
because that makes it, that gives it a nefarious overtone, and I wouldn't want to sign on to it sounding nefarious, because I it's not lost on me that people hold and cherish faith deeply, but the negative aspect of it is that you produce 10-year-olds who know, like, yes, the gay guy's going to hell, you know, and you keep that with you in life. Now you're working on a job and you're looking at that person the same way. Bad.
Continuing the cycle.
Bad. You know, you continue, bad. So that's what I'm saying. Like, when I see these houses of worship now doing things that are just accepting the reality that we live in.
Yes.
Right? You can catch more bees with honey than you can with vinegar.
Okay.
People have wanted to look at their faith or their church as a place that will accept me no matter how flawed I am.
See themselves reflected in it.
Exactly. But they've been told that they're going to hell.
we're only humans, you know,
Yep.
and we are imperfect.
We are. Yeah.
So
I can't imagine, especially like most of the faiths that we see, right? People talk about how they're based in love. I cannot imagine a God who loves people not wanting them to love.
Me
Like
neither.
that just
Me
doesn't
neither.
make any sense to me.
Me neither. And I tell you, like, I knew I had grown up before it. I was, that way of thinking had left me, but I really, seriously, when I joined the military, that's when I realized, like, wow, I was completely wrong. I actually felt like that's when, like, the guilt came. And actually, in another way, that's why, like, with the show, doing this, seriously, you know, I'm happy to talk about this kind of stuff, because I've actually seen it, and I've actually grown up in a world where it wasn't talked. It was swept under the rug, kind of like we're talking about with the Black community. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, that was just, you know, nobody's talking about that during dinner,
And we should be.
and we should be. That's what I'm
should
talking
be.
about. That's what
Talking about it is the only way that we're gonna reduce the stigma in the first place.
The time is 8:48. So
that's why we have sorry, Curtis.
No, yeah,
That's
yeah.
why we have something called sharing hope.
Mhm.
When we talk about being at the table and talking about these topics that are concerning to the family.
Yeah.
November 15th and the 22nd for those,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Sharing
La
hope is
Mesa, the table. See?
yeah, exactly.
Okay. So, another thing I want to kind of get from you ladies, in the work that you do, how can what's the best way for people to contact you? What way do you prefer that folks come to you, and how do you meet the clients that you meet? Now, I've only been to resource events where you ladies have been a few steps down from me, so I've seen you in action. I've seen you at the places. But what does it look like when folks contact you? Is it always a call? Is it mostly with emails? Or do you have people who come by the booth and they look for services?
It's a combination of those things. It depends on what the event is. Like over the summer, we did a lot of events at NIU, and we've done a number since they came back into session. And we would get people coming up to our tables that were asking about volunteering, other ones asking about interning, other ones asking if we've got any support groups going on in campus, which we are in the process of making happen. But a lot of it also ends up being like the professional friendships that you end up making. Like every time we go to an event, we end up meeting other people. And sometimes the people that you meet, they have a person that needs a presentation, or you find that you've got a friend in common and, they want you to come speak at their church. Sometimes it's businesses that want us to come do presentations for their staff. We do presentations, like you were saying, Ending the Silence happens at schools, middle and high schools. They do presentations for the students, they do presentations for the staff, they do presentations for teachers.
And for the parents.
And then for the parents.
Okay. How can we help you?
By promoting the different activities that we have going on.
Spread the word.
Spread the word, have open invitation to the different entities in the city to contact NAMI, whether it's through the website or because they receive a call, to be open to those calls, because then we can partner, and from there wonderful things can happen for the community.
We love to partner with other organizations, especially since we're a small organization. We've got 3 staff members currently, so collaboration is
Key.
It's absolutely essential.
There's a gentleman, Melissa Cervantes. Good morning to you. Michael Rayford. Good morning. He asked, "What's their contact information?" What's your contact information, ladies? We'll make a post with it, of course, as well.
You can email me at programs@namikdk.org.
Can we put that in the chat? Both of
You can also visit our website, and there's a web form that you can enter in that will you can ask us questions.
Okay.
We field a lot of questions through there as well.
Okay. Michael Rayford, we're going to put the contact information in the chat for you guys as well. Thank you. Okay. Next, so I was going to mention, actually, there's a gentleman here, William Miller III. He and I used to take the train every day. I think he still works downtown Chicago. But my first corporate America job, I was really proud to get it. I was one of 2 other black people at this company.
That chocolate chip and a sea of milk.
Exactly. But William Miller III, he's a fellow African American guy too. He's an Army veteran. I think he's reserves. I know he works in Chicago. It was really, again, looking back, it was I won't say self-defeating, but it was a consistent reinforcement of the thought, because when we're there together, we're riding the train and all, and we got a diverse crew, but at the end of the day, I am subconsciously tethering myself to him, the fellow African American. And that's what's making it so wrong in these, I'm just going to do it. I'm going to, reserves, 21 years in, William Miller III, there he is. Oh, thank you very much, William Miller. He's my dear friend. I love this guy. Listen, I'm using him as an example right now, because this is good, but it's bad. Here's the problem. Here's what African Americans and Latinos got to stop doing, right? We look at each other as the tether. No matter how far across the room, I'm going to just tether my pole to the other Puerto Rican in the room or the other black. And the benefit, we've been doing that because we find like-mindedness and continuity in our community and everything like that. But we are in the wrong situations. That's not helpful. It's not helpful to do that, because if you consistently only narrow yourself and limit yourself to your own racial and ethnic group, what you do over time is you potentially ostracize yourself or miss opportunities that you would have otherwise seen had you had a more open.
Only is the operative word there. You know what I mean? Like in situations where, like I went to high school in Naperville.
Okay.
So I very much understand that being one of only a few black people in a room.
Sure.
Right. Sometimes it's a matter of like helping to make yourself feel safe to find someone else who understands what your lived experience is.
True.
Right. As black people, as any person of color, we don't really have the luxury of not being around different races, like when we're out and about in the world.
Mm-hmm.
We don't get to isolate ourselves in the same way that sometimes white people are able to.
Mm-hmm.
Behind their gated fences and communities. Like some white people can go their entire life without ever even seeing a person of color, just depending on where they live.
Yeah.
For us, we always have to consider how we're going to be perceived in those situations.
Right.
And we need to make connections with a bunch of different people, but there's nothing wrong with also being like, let me go talk to that other black person because this is wild and I need somebody else who can talk to me about how wild this is.
And of course, right. And I thank you, because I wasn't trying to minimize that, because like that's what makes it beautiful, you know. For example, we were in a nice buttoned up beautiful office, but once they discovered that, you know, me and the other African American person, we used to cater in wings. Call JJ's, get the 50 piece.
Oh yeah.
We did that like twice, and then it became an office thing. Curtis, we're getting wings today, man. All right. You know, Trevor, what you want? Lemon pepper. So you know, it can, right?
It can grow.
It can grow. That's what I was trying to get out of it. It can grow. I just don't want to, because I see it now a lot, especially in politics. I've been fortunate enough to become a precinct committeeman, and that is one of the issues affecting a lot of we only will vote for a brother. We only going to vote for the other Latino guy on the thing. He doesn't know anything about. Right?
I care about your policies.
Exactly.
I need to know what your policy positions are.
So,
just because you look like me doesn't mean that you have the same values that I have.
And that's where I was trying to go with it. We should have that love and that pride, but we need to have a
critical thinking skills.
Exactly, and have an open view of the world. That's gonna help us, and I think that'll go a long way to. I don't know. I think it'll go a long way to helping the mental health issue. I really do, because I'm fortunate enough to see a lot of the members of my community, the African American community, doing fantastic things, doing great things. But in some of the private conversations that we have, or some of the private interactions that we have, I still see that, you know, that's how auntie and them think. You know, that's how I see where that's coming from. Mm-hmm. You know, So anyway, the time is 8:58. Did we cover everything? Did we save the world?
I think we did.
I think we did. Okay, yeah. All right, yeah. Because
I don't believe that it's 8:50.
I know
this is
a good conversation. And this kind of thing. This is the kind of thing that matters and we should be talking about. So that's why I wanted to make sure that we got everything. We talked about the 5K, Prairie Point Park, Oswego, starts at 9 a.m. La Mesa, October 19th. Conversemos, October 25th. Progressive Writing, November 15th and the 22nd. We got Sharing Hope. Yeah.
and we want to make sure that the schools are listening to us.
Yeah.
Because we need to get into the schools to talk about ending the silence.
That's right.
We got to start there, because
That's right.
those students are going to be the ones when they become adults and when they have children of their own. We want them to already have these skills,
Well,
so they don't have to spend that time trying to learn something that could have been useful to them all along.
Yes.
Exactly.
Well, we're blessed to have listeners who are professionals at both D131, D129, so I hope they are listening to the sound of our voices.
Ending the silence should be in your schools.
Something's telling me to call Curtis, man, and ask him about those great guests he had on NAMI KDK. But we'll talk when the mic is off and see if we can thread that needle. That's
Absolutely.
You know what it's on me. I did forget something. Ladies and gentlemen, I forgot to tell you guys all about the first Friday coming up and all the good things going on. Grumpy Gaucho, Strawberries Barbecue, and the food. French 75 is going to have first anniversary, new art and fall cocktail menu. I forgot to tell you about Nuna Ceramics, Art Bar, Aurora Public Art. But you know what? We still got 2 days of news. So you'll get the message. You will. You can hear it tomorrow on Buenos Dias Aurora in Spanish, and you'll also get it Friday, just in time for you to go out and have a great time in our beautiful downtown. We would like to thank our wonderful guests of NAMI KDK for coming back on the show. And we'll see you ladies again.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
And thank you so much for having us.
Yeah, so
Thank
we're,
you.
we're all friends. Amanda, shout out. Alejandra, we're a family.
Right.
Karina.
Right.
Absolutely.
So we'll have you back on the show again. Have a blessed and positive day. Take care of yourself
Likewise.
and each other.